Let's create complex animations, and believe it or not, it's easier than you think. With just a few simple steps, you will assemble and animate complex rigs like a pro. After that, we will dive into set building and lighting and transforming your work into a cinematic masterpiece. All assets are linked in the description if you want to follow along.
So we have the clockwork here, it looks really complex, a lot of things are done, but we want to make things simple so that when you go nuts, like on a time lapse, where we have like the midnight and then just fast forward to 6 o'clock. We don't want to have to manually adjust all these things, right? So let's create this thing from scratch. Here's the gears, the glass, the center element with the hour and minute handle. And we don't have any animation on it, right? The timeline, I'm scrubbing through it, nothing moves. And that is exactly what we want. So you believe me that we're going to do it together. This is our main driver, our main control. Shift S, we snap our 3D cursor to that selected controller. Then we're gonna go with the center element that has our handles and do exactly the same. We snap this one to our 3D cursor and it already jumps right into the center of our camera. I think I might just select all the other elements and bring them over into the camera view so that we can get rid of the second viewport, I think. Maximum visibility. Yay! Good. Let's set up the first dependency. For this, we're going to use the minute handle as our main driver. We're going to select our first gear on the left there, right click on the Y rotation, and we're going to add a driver. So we go down to the object, type min for min handle, and the type will be the Y rotation. And I think we just leave it at that for now, just to see if things work. So we're gonna grab the minute handle and just spin it around, and hey, it is rotating the first gear. Perfect. This is exactly what we want. So with that, I want to thank you for watching this tutorial, and you can figure out the rest yourself. Now, select all the gears. Now shift select the gear that has the connection already, Control L, and then link animation data. And guess what happened? We animated all of them now. Well, we didn't animate them, but we set the dependencies for animation. So let's get to the assembly, make things look complicated. All right, so here I'm just making sure that things sort of visually make sense, that things grab, the gears grab into each other where there is overlap, or don't have any intersection where there shouldn't be any, so they don't just obstruct each other. Snapping the glass to the center element and positioning it so that here as well things look nice without intersecting each other. Too easy. All right, let's just give it a test animation here. I'm gonna set a key for the Y rotation on the minute handle. Jump to frame 40, just give it any other key right now. Hover over the timeline, press T, make it linear, then press V, make it a vector key that just makes sure that there's no slowdown on the rotation right now. It's rotating at a constant speed, but at frame 40 it stops. So we're gonna do Shift E, linear extrapolation, and that makes sure that, well, the animation continues at the speed that we defined. And it looks awesome, man. This is already looking really complex, a lot of moving parts. Of course, now we have to make things work together so that not everything works at the same speed and in the same direction. Okay, now we do the hour handle. Minute handle, come on, let's do it. Min handle minutes, there we go. And the type will be the Y rotation as well. By the way, if you wonder why I am talking so quiet, everyone in the house is sleeping, because you have seen it on the time, it's close to 12. So shh, we're gonna make it together really quickly and really quiet. Okay, so by default it's mimicking the rotation, but we don't want it to be at the same speed. So we have to do something here. So we should divide the minute rotation by 60 because, you know, 1 hour is 60 minutes and we just see what we get, and we get nothing. Nothing happens. What's happening? The expressions looks right. It's targeting everything, the right object, the right rotation. So if I scrub through it, oh no, it does something. It does something, but it's so subtle that I didn't notice it before. So clearly this is completely off. Let's jump back into the expression. I think my mistake was that it's not about the relation between minutes and hours, like 60 minutes is 1 hour. It is about the rotation that each handle makes, how many rotation each handle makes per 12 hours on a 12-hour clock, right? So the hour handle will do 1 rotation to make 12 hours time, and the minute handles will have 12 rotations to cover 12 hours. So that means since the minute handle is our main driver, we have to divide its rotation by 12 to get the correct rotation for the hour. So 12 rotations for 12 hours divided by 12 makes 1 rotation on the hour handle. All right. Man, I did not think that would get that complicated, but hey, that looks great. In fact, that looks really good. I think we got it. I think this is the logic we're missing here. After all, it's midnight, hey? I might just speed up the animation a little bit by selecting the second set of keys there and sliding it a bit forward. Yeah, now we see actually more time pass, and I think that puts us in a really good place. All right, I think this is a good time to mention that we will be jumping into the time-lapse aspect that I showed you before, midnight to 6 o'clock soon. But first, I want us really to make the clockwork work so that smaller gears rotate faster than bigger gears, that we have gears that rotate clockwise and gears that rotate counterclockwise, because they are like, you know, grabbing into each other, affecting each other that way. And for that we have to jump into the expressions again and just modify them all. So let's grab that gear there, and instead of +0, which is just offsetting the rotation of the main driver, we will multiply that by -3. -3 is now rotating this gear counterclockwise at 3 times the speed of the minute handle. And I think here, these two have the same size and they seem to have something to do with each other. They could, you know, it's hidden by the center element, but we all go by just how does it feel. So yeah, I think that these two should rotate at the same speed in opposite directions. Here. So at the moment, everything is a bit too fast for the gears, so I'm just going to slow it down again. And it's almost like the minute handle is like a second handle right now. But hey, time is relative. At least we can see now what the gears do, and that is the important part, as that is what we want to adjust. Yeah, that feels good. That's great. These two have a good relationship there to the minute handle. It's time to just fast forward a little bit through the process here before everyone falls asleep. It is rotating the same steps over and over. Play with speed that feels good, and the rotation order. So for this one, I want to fine tune now how these two gears interact. There's a little bit of offset we need, so rather than edit the driver, we go into, where do we go? Into the, open the driver editor. We select all keys in there, and now we want to move the curve in that editor in a way that the teeth of each gear there is not intersecting, and like what we see here right now, and also having good contacts. I'll run slightly so we have the contact on the right between those teeth and that looks good. That looks good, yeah. All right, fast forward through the rest of the elements. Again, the procedure is the same. It is just eyeballing now what looks good and make sure that gears that interact with each other do it in a way that makes sense. A little bit of time lapse here on the case that I built for this clockwork. So it's just a really like modern design, basic alarm clock case. Nothing fancy really, using a boolean to cut a hole in there. And the rest is just a big bevel and a small bevel for the front edge. And we just place the clockwork in there using the controller that I spoke of before. So I'm not touching any individual gears or handles anymore for this. I use the controller to line it up with the housing. A few stylish elements here. Snap it to the surface of the case, and here we are. Beautiful. Yeah. So I think with that we have our clockwork. So I think it's time for a time lapse. Cool. So we just expand the timeline a bit there. We have the hour handle selected, and we jump into the curve editor with Control Tab, and down there we have our rotation keys for rotation Y, and because we have them linearly extrapolated, we see an infinite line at a constant rotation speed. So let's just adjust I think the animation length. 200 frames would be enough. Jump back into the curve editor, GX to center them out. Bring the playhead to frame 100, and with all keys selected we can now scale them on playhead if you scale around the bounding box, and that allows us to now go to frame 1. Just Control CV, copy the first key, and then jump to the last frame, Control CV for the last key. Select the very first key and the last key, go back to frame 100, and this time we scale on Y so that we give the keys a slight angle again, the curve I mean, so that we have a slow rotation, go to a fast rotation, and then go back to slow rotation. If those first and last keys would have been identical to the center keys, the clockwork would have stopped working because there's no change between the keys, right? It's static. So I think for proper time lapse we just want to cover a bit more time, so I'm just gonna grab the last two keys. All right, we gotta zoom out a little bit more here. That's just like an hour later or so. All right, that's a lot there. So how many hours is that? I don't know, 6, 8, 9, 11 hours. Okay, that's a bit too much. That would be nice to transition from midnight to the morning, so we get some like moonlight passing by, and then sunrise. Yeah, something like this looks really good. Awesome. I'm happy with that. All right. So right now, I think I want to switch the linear keys to something that eases in a bit. So the acceleration of the time is not like tuck. And then the same with stopping, is not like stopping so rapid. So we go on Bezier keys. Zoom in here, making sure that the tangents line up with the outer keys at frame 1 and frame 200. Otherwise we would get speed ramps that we don't want. We want constant speed, time lapse, and then back to constant speed. And yeah, that looks good. Tweak it slightly, the end position to 6 o'clock. Yeah, well, there you go. Has a bit more magic to it to actually hit certain hours there, rather than just arbitrary numbers. and I think this looks perfect. Everything is synchronized, and this is essentially the process of this tutorial.
How to get from this to this. Welcome to the second part of the Clockwork tutorial, where I'm going to focus on lighting, rendering, camera work, set dressing and other nifty things. So this is the second part of the Clockwork tutorial. We will be focusing on lighting and rendering, setting a nice mood and really sell this midnight to morning transition. Let's get through this here. We start with creating a cube to working on a nice shelf. I'm just fast forwarding through this a bit because everybody knows how to make a shelf from a cube, really. So this looks about right. Give it a name, duplicate it, push it a bit in so that down here in this area we have the ability to just cast some shadows or whatever, rather than having everything front on and flat. All right, we're going over to this funky box up here. This is what will cast the silhouette of the window on my back wall. You see already here that I have a texture applied, and I chuck that texture into the alpha channel of this geometry. So right now you can see if I move the camera in the right posi, we should be able to see, there it is, there's our clock. So right behind that alpha now, behind that window, I have positioned my light. You can see it right here, and that will shine right through there. Oopsie daisy, that's a crook line again. Oh, Jesus. Well, anyway, this is as good as it gets. So that light then shines right through that hole made by the texture into our room. Cool. Quickly setting up some textures here. There's not too many textures, to be honest. I like the look of having some wooden shelves or like a bedside table scenario. So this is a really good texture coming from Polygon. So thanks, Andrew, for that. This is great. So by the way, if you want to have an automatic setup of your shaders, Control-Shift-T, and Blender will automatically connect everything nicely for you. Node Wrangler needs to be enabled. So what I didn't like so much is how the texture is lined up. It's facing me. I wanted to go left to right. You guys know how to rotate textures, don't you? Here in the mapping node, Z, 90 degrees. And then next thing will be that we have to address the front face because that still looks a bit rubbish. So for that, I actually jumped into the edit mode, select that face and just unwrapped it. So now I'm just selecting the shelf below and link UV maps and link materials. So now we have the perfect identical object here. That's not looking good. We see texture repeating itself here and there. We don't like that. So I'm going to select the lower shelf, rotate it by 180 degrees. So the last thing I want to do is darken this wood material that we have here. It's a bit too bright for my liking. So I'm adding a mix RGB node, plug it between the texture and the shader, set it to multiply and multiply it with black. That way I'm just that way I can use the fade to control how much influence black should have, and that will do the trick. So the next step is to address these two design elements there that are a little bit too bright. Let's give them gold materials. I'm just scrubbing over this. In short, you select all of these elements, then grab a object that has the gold material on it, press Ctrl L, transfer materials, and you set. There you go. This is how it looks in the end. So you just see me here moving it a little bit here in the corner there, moving it through the scene a bit. And also what I do here now is it's just the back wall is just a bit too blue. And that is because we see in the scene here, it actually is blue and it doesn't need to be, because we want the moon to be the cold color and everything should be then just like tinted from the moon. So we have warm colors that will come from this side, and the cold moon color will come in from this side, giving it a nice cold warm look. But it also means we don't need the blue back wall to just double down on that. Instead, I'm going to give this a sort of like earthy tone, a warm gray of sorts. Okay, and so now we have our time lapse here. Right now I'm just figuring out somewhere here is a keyframe, and probably somewhere around here will be the other one. So these are the two markers. So now that we have those keys determined, I want to focus on the composition before the time lapse starts, because we will be looking at this image for a couple of seconds before time accelerates, and I just want everything to look nice. So we want to have details where there is none. We have a nice highlight here. There is no information on this side. On this side we can't even tell where the clock ends and the background or the ground starts. So all this needs to be filled in somehow. And we're doing this now. You just play around a bit. Place the gobo, which is this thing here with the window, the transparent window, somewhere nicely, but also play with the light that casts with the moonlight. Here, scaling things up a bit. Scaling it up gives actually quite a nice reflection on this side of the wall, but also we get some nice play down here on the wood that I like, and also the handles here, and that ring element on the clock catches some nice highlights there. So this is all looking really good. There's a big difference between the framing and the actual render frame, because now here we have this is our composition effectively, right? While if I go here, there's nothing. The green arc that we have in the render is completely missing. So it definitely pays out to, where is it here? It definitely pays out to swap between display modes a bit, use rendering when it makes sense, and then jump back out of it when you need more performance. But yeah, don't forget light and shade, how light and shade and reflections can affect composition. So with that in place, let's just focus a little bit on the warm lights that come in now. I played a little bit with the point light that you see over here, but it's just I don't know, it just didn't quite look right. Like let me quickly scroll forward a bit so that like this is a perfect example of the point light here, right? It gives us nice highlights, a nice illumination. We see that there's light coming from the left, but we actually don't have those highlights that we see from the moonlight on this side, because the moonlight is a area light and the point light isn't. So there's something is lacking there, and that is why in the end decided to just go with a area light. And set that to disk, so I'm still keeping it round rather than having a rectangular or whatever reflection, and I'm automatically getting all those nice highlights here on the handle, in the glass. This is what we want. Quick note, I push this to the side on area lights. Different why I only actually use area lights or direct lights, never really the other ones. So let's say this is my back wall here, right? This thing there. Then we have our shelf with our little clock on there. Now, if I have a point light here, I can immediately tell how far away it is from that wall, because that will be very bright. And so it's very easy to determine the origin of a point light. There is nothing wrong with that. But I don't have much control. It just shines in all directions. Whereas with an area light that faces to the right, it has a limited way to expose the scene, to shine its light, right? So by default, by Blender default, area lights have 180 degrees illumination, right? And everything behind it is dark. There is no effect of this light, and that is powerful. But what if all of this is too bright for my liking? Yeah, What I can do then, I just have my wall and my shelf again. I can rotate my area light away from the area that I don't want to brighten up so much. So now it's doing this. It's just gradually creating more and more shadow over here, making this area here less bright by rotating it away, right? The other thing is also that I have a spread control over here, and you can tell this is not 180 degrees. This at the moment is at 58. So I limited the cone. 58 is probably something like this. So rather than eliminating everything here, it's just eliminating everything here. That way you have so much control, and you get those beautiful reflections and everything out of the box. So yeah, little excurse on area lights and why I love them. By the way, here's a really cool trick to make it very easy to place your highlights and not having to worry too much about positioning the lights. So I placed my 3D cursor right by my clock. And then with the period key, you can select that this 3D cursor is the origin for your rotations. So when you rotate that light, you rotate it around the 3D cursor, which is by my clock, and the light is just doing its thing. So you just have to check here in the camera if what you see is what you like. And it's just I love workflows that make things easy. That's I love it. One thing that I notice is that there's a bit of like spill coming in the area here. So I grabbed this cube here and used it as a flag. So I just blocked out light down here now. So this casts shadow down here, and that way I can make sure that the viewer is looking this way and not trying to find something down there, because there is nothing. So let's jump into the time lapse. Cool. So what I've done here actually is Control B lets you select the area of interest that you want to render, and I also zoomed out a bit. Because I'm working on the general composition, I don't need to worry about small details right now. So if the composition works as a thumbnail, so to say, it will work in big. And that way I have fast response times as well. So same deal. We're rotating around the 3D cursor, which is down there. And rotate the moonlight now. That looks beautiful. Just finding nice angles there, really. And now we're going into fading it out as well. So as time passes, I want the moon to become less intense. That obviously is because now daylight kicks in. So what we need to do is we need a new light. So let's bring the new light into our scene here. It's of course it's a area light. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a warmer tint there. That looks nice. And just determine the frames. So just the light will be animated as well. You can see it down here. It's the color as well as the intensity. So while the moonlight becomes weaker, the daylight becomes stronger, and we have this nice shift from bluish tints to crimson sky. Now the camera, very important. I didn't want to have everything so static. Let me show you a little trick. So I find my end frame and my start frame. And now here is something that is really cool. If you see that, I'm just scrubbing. Can I play it? So what you see here is very important. What do you see? Let me show you. Here's our focus point, right? The center of the dial. And then we go here and see how little has traveled. It travels from here to there. It's a very stable and a very deliberate choice to keep this area stable, while everything else is moving a lot. Look how much bigger the clock becomes, but how stable the center of the dial is, and that subconsciously guides the viewer's attention to that area, because it's an area of calm, and we seem to be drawn to that area. So try to stabilize the frame around your subject of interest. This is really important. All right, let's get rid of all this. We just give Control-Shift-E, linear extrapolation, so the camera won't start and stop. It just keeps going. And it will do this from the beginning of the shot to the end of the shot. I think just slowing down the animation a bit. Another cool trick is by placing the playhead here at a frame that you want to use as a pivot in the timeline, and then use scale. It will scale the keys away from your playhead. Super nifty trick as well, so you don't have to jump into any graph editor, a curve editor, and shift keys around individually. And look at this. This looks nice. It's a nice subtle camera move that does not draw attention to itself. Beautiful. So I think with that, it's time to render.